Persona 3 is the 4th installment in the Persona series, 5th if you count the spin-off Shin Megami Tensei and one of only 3 Persona games they ever made if you're Atlas. Persona 3 marked a major turning point in the series and established many of the core mechanics that defined the Persona series as we know it today and led to the worldwide success of games like Persona 4 and Persona 5. And there are, confusingly enough, a handful of different versions of this game, which complicates something like a good old farm fresh recap like this one. To remedy this, I'm going to be recapping one version of the game, and that's Persona 3 Festival, also known as Persona 3 Fez. And that's because Persona 3 Festival was the Persona 4 Golden or Persona 5 Royal equivalent for Persona 3. And that's because it added on an epilogue section at the end of the game known as The Answer, and this was not included in Persona 3 Portable, one of Persona 3's remakes. What was included though in Persona 3 Portable, however, was the option to play as a female main character, which did change the confidant relationships in the game and a lot of other things that I'm not gonna spoil at the moment. The female main character in Portable, or Femsi as she's known, is a completely different character to Makoto Yuki, who is the male protagonist of Persona 3. If you want to experience the female main character's route bar for bar and see how it changes things from Persona 3, then Persona 3 Portable, the remake of Persona 3, is available on Steam, Nintendo, and most other platforms these days. And if you want to play Persona 3, but you're a little bit hesitant, a little bit scared of those classic crunchy PlayStation polygons, then Atlas is currently working on Persona 3 Reload, which is a remake of Persona 3, but with menu screens that, well, you already know how I feel about the menu screens. They put their old goddamn Megidolans into those menu screens. Okay, alright, it's recap time. One final chance, click off now, or forever witness me spoil the absolute maboofadine out of this game. That's it. Get out of here. Oh lord, spoiling time! We start Persona 3 alongside a blue-haired young man by the name of Makoto Yuki. Makoto is transferring to his new school, heading to his new dormitory late one night. However, on his way in, the clock strikes midnight and folks begin turning into coffins left and right. Makoto, however, is too distracted to notice this because he's trying to skip the song One Dance by Drake on his iPod Nano. So he continues on his way as if nothing's happened, and at the front of his new dorm, a strange little guy awaits his arrival. Little guy looks like one of those creepy ass orphans from the Christmas Carol remake where Jim Carrey plays literally everyone, and he has Makoto sign a contract. Little orphan from the Jim Carrey Christmas Carol approves. Next on the welcoming committee is Mitsuru, who takes all her fashion cues from Jessie from Team Rocket. Prepare for trouble? Shoot, make it double while you're at it. Makoto, I'm gonna need you to part that hair down the middle, son. I'm trying to see something. Mitsuru looks like a 33-year-old woman with a mean cigarette addiction and 4 kids at home. But that's probably just what being friends with Junpei does to you. Next to Mitsuru is a girl named Yukari who takes Makoto the next day to BMW High School. Inside Gekkoukan High School, Makoto speaks with his new homeroom teacher, Miss Toriumi, who reveals the fact that Makoto's moved to a lot of different places since his parents both died in a car accident 10 years ago. Miss Toriumi, a complicated gamer girl who don't cry even at romance movies, represents the Hermit Arcana social link, interestingly enough, and like the 40-year-old woman you counseled through a divorce in World of Warcraft in 2009, we'll hear more from her later. In class, Makoto's greeted by a ball cap wearing, belt buckle toting son of a gun named Junpei. And we're then taken to the evening where we see our single mom who works 12 jobs speaking to a young man who dresses like one of Heidi Klum's guest judges on Project Runway. The student's name is Akihiko, and Mitsuru tells him that the number of acute cases of apathy syndrome is on the rise. We're given a further explanation the next day when Makoto overhears that normally healthy students have been becoming dazed and unresponsive and that something must be about to happen. Apathy syndrome this, apathy syndrome that. Look, Makoto, I'm gonna be honest. In America, we just call that smoking weed and playing League of Legends. Later, Makoto has a run-in with 70s fashion icon Jesus Christ, who is the chairman of the board of Gekko High School. Mr. Akutsuki noticed that Makoto kept his human form when entering the dorm during the dark hour the previous night, which means he's about to adopt the shit out of this zesty little orphan. Hope you like X-Men, little guy, because you are about to become one. The dark hour, we learn, is a liminal stretch of time that takes place after midnight each night, and a whole bunch of funky shit happens. Most people turn into coffins, shadows wander the street, and your high school turns into a brutalist architect's take on the goddamn pizza tower from Pizza Tower. And then at that point, you get to manifest a persona if you're special, or a dog. dog. At night, Makoto is brought to a strange blue room in an elevator where a long-nosed man named Igor welcomes him to the Velvet Room. Alongside Igor are his assistants, Elizabeth and her younger brother Theodore. You get Elizabeth as your Velvet Room attendant if you're playing as Makoto, but in Portable, if you choose Femsi, you get Theodore. There are some theories out there that Theo dooms his timeline by not doing Elizabeth's special mission at the end of the game. I don't know how canon that is, but great job, Theo. Well done. Way to ruin it for all the other future female protagonists. Igor tells Makoto that this place, the Velvet Room, exists between the dreaming and waking worlds, and that Makoto is permitted as a guest there because of the contract he signed when he arrived at the dorm. Igor tells them that his, alongside the Velvet Room attendants' jobs are to help Makoto hone his skills and grow stronger. That night, Makoto and Yukari are awakened by an attack on their dorm. They're chased onto the roof, and Yukari attempts to protect Makoto from the shadow that has chased them up there. Yukari whips out a device that looks a heck of a lot like a gun and holds it to her head. But before she gets the chance to even pull the trigger, the shadow knocks her away. Makoto picks up the gun instinctively and knows what he must do. He aims the weapon at his head and sees a vision of the little boy from earlier telling him to use it. Makoto pulls the trigger, simultaneously somehow knowing to call out to his persona. Turtleneck-toting Jesus Christ, Mitsuru, and an injured-looking Akihiko watch as Makoto summons Orpheus. But before Makoto can use Orpheus's power, another creature tears its way out of Orpheus. The Greek god of death, Thanatos, then emerges from Orpheus and crushes him to death. But then Thanatos is unable to hold his form and reverts back to Orpheus once more. Makoto then collapses from exhaustion, absolutely tuckered out from awakening to his persona. Passing out, Makoto finds himself in the Velvet Room once more. Igor tells Makoto that the power he just awakened to was that of a persona. Orpheus, the persona, to be exact. Igor tells him personas are manifestations of the human psyche and that there are as many personas as there are personalities out there in the world. Igor also says that right now Makoto's persona is still weak and he'll need to strengthen it by building up social links or emotional bonds with other people. The introduction of social links was one of the reasons why Persona 3 was so revolutionary for the series. If you've played Persona 4, Persona 5, and there is a very high chance you have if you're watching this video or interested in the Persona series at all, then you know that social links are an absolutely integral piece of the Persona series as we know it today. And social links are part of the reason why the series is so successful today and part of the charm that allures many people who enjoy the Persona series. Makoto then awakens to Yukari hanging out by his bedside, apologizing for not being able to protect him. That evening, JC Turtleneck Christ explains the Dark Hour to Makoto and introduces him to SEAS, which is the specialized extracurricular execution squad who use their persona to battle shadows, and have a fucking mouthful of a club name to put on a resume. Jesus and Mitsuru invite Makoto to join SEAS and give him his very own evoker or gun-like weapon that the members of SEAS use to summon their personas. Makoto accepts the invitation and receives the full Arcana social link. At night, Makoto is then visited by a strange little boy again who tells him that the end of everything is coming. Makoto always so honest, man. My dreams are never that informative, mysterious, or prophetic for that matter. Once I had a dream about a guy called the Piano Killer who carried a keyboard on a stand into your house, played one note, and then killed you. He did not get me though because simply, I'm built different. The next day, Akihiko brings in Makoto's classmate, Junpei, saying that he's also just awakened to his own persona. Akihiko now tells the group that they officially have enough members to begin exploring Tartarus, a place where they believe they'll be able to get down to the bottom of this whole Dark Hour thing. And that's because the school only transforms into Tartarus during the Dark Hour. And Mitsuru hesitates to comment on why this happens to their school specifically during the Dark Hour. Akihiko then decides that Makoto should lead the expedition with Yukari and Junpei. Better luck next time, Junpei. You're gonna need a fatter cowboy belt buckle than that if you think you're leading this fucking group. Nice goddamn try, brother. Yukari's persona is Io, one of Zeus's many ladies who he ended up turning into a cow to hide her from his wife Hera. Junpei's persona is Hermes, messenger of the gods, and Mitsuru is also joining them to provide support and intel with her persona Penthesilea, the Greek daughter of Ares and the Amazonian queen. The group begin exploring Tartarus, battling shadows, and practicing their newfound abilities. Exiting Tartarus, they find that the Dark Hour is pretty exhausting and all head off to bed. The next day, Mitsuru, who also happens to be the student council president, addresses the student body, and Junpei tells Makoto that her father actually owns the school and is head of the Kirijo group. Makoto then begins talking to others and forming relationships with his classmates. He speaks to Kenji, who reveals that he's crushing on a teacher who's already engaged, and Makoto urges Kenji to not make any hasty moves. Makoto also helps the sports club's ace athlete avoid burnout, helps the art club president Keisuke ignore outside pressures and try to find a career path for himself. And finally, he helps the French foreign exchange student, how do you say, learn about Japanese culture. Oh lordy folks, light one up for Bebe, dude. May we all smoke a fat Wolverine candy cigarette in his honor. Seeing all of Makoto's many money moves, Mitsuru then offers him a position on the student council to help her out, and he accepts. In the student council, Makoto meets the very strict representative of the disciplinary committee and helps him learn the value of building trust with others rather than seizing power over others. Makoto also helps the shy treasurer Chihiro build confidence in herself. And Makoto, by God, is therapizing the world. Therapists in Japan are out of a damn job when he gets on the court. Ladies and gentlemen, theys and thems, if you bounce past to Makoto at the top of the key, he will, without fail, every damn time take one dribble, pump fake, and then help you unlock a sense of self-worth and confidence to help you achieve your lifelong dreams. Back at the dorm, Junpei gives Makoto a copy of an MMORPG he used to play known as Innocent Sin Online, which unlocks Makoto's version of my senior year of college old school RuneScape addiction arc. Online, Makoto meets a girl role-playing as Maya who wants him to roleplay as Tatsuya. Makoto knows all about a tragic protagonist sacrificing themselves for the betterment of humanity and agrees to play along and roleplay as Tatsuya. Meanwhile, Makoto meets with Elizabeth in the Velvet Room, who gives him a list of errands to complete in Tartarus and around town, mainly out of sheer curiosity towards humanity and humankind. On the 1st of May, the group takes some supplies to Akihiko in the hospital, where they meet a guy doing a horrendous cosplay of the one mysterious giant beanie scarf guy from Pokemon X and Y. He's there at the hospital to investigate the rise in cases of apathy syndrome. The next full night, Mitsuru complains about the limitations of her persona at gathering information, but notes that she's detected a particularly nasty shadow for the team to investigate. Mitsuru informs them that their target is on a stopped monorail train, and the team head in to prevent the monster from harming any civilians. Once on board, the team is shocked to find the train begins to move, and they must hurry to stop it before it collides with another train. They race against the clock to get to the front of the train, and once there they find a giant shadow manifestation of the Priestess Arcana. The team then harness the power and inspiration given to them by Chris Pine and Denzel Washington from the movie Unstoppable to defeat the shadow. Makoto pulls the lever to then activate the brakes on the train. Afterwards, Akihiko then tells him that he's fully recovered and that he's ready to join them in battle with his persona Polydeuces, or Pollux, one of the Greek hero twins. He also mentions that they found another persona user, a girl named Fuka. They also observe the correlation that anytime they defeat a major shadow, there's a temporary decrease in apathy syndrome cases, and believe that their work may be helping the situation. Over the next week, something strange happens. 3 bullies who hung out with a tough crowd are rumored to have disappeared and reappeared unconscious, all 3 being hospitalized as a result. Rumor has it that a vengeful ghost is to blame for the incidents, and Yukari convinces Junpei and Makoto to join her in an investigation into the rumor. Yukari says some real goofy goober in the salty spittoon, and as a result gets Junpei punched in the gut. Then the guy from the other day steps the in. Back up, boys. It's the guy from the other day here. He's gonna your guy from the other day. With a name like that, he could be a character in just about any Southern person's retelling of any situation they've ever had happen in their life. Well, brother, that sumbitch from the other day had the audacity to ask me if I wanted to go fishing down off the embankment. After all the shit he put me through, I wouldn't go frog gigging with him if he was the last sumbitch alive. Anyways, our beanie-wearing Shadow the Hedgehog OST listener intervenes and forces the ill-natured scoundrels to leave him alone. Shinjiro, Linkin Park fan and avid early 2000s Christian rock enjoyer, tells him that those bullies had been rude to Fuka, and it was rumored that she was dead and her ghost was haunting them. They then confront Fuka's teacher, who had covered up that one of her students had gone missing. They also confront Natsuki, another one of Fuka's bullies, who tells them that they locked Fuka in the gym locker room 10 days ago, but felt guilty and freed her in case Fuka tried to end her life. This girl became the first victim, saying she followed a weird voice and then disappeared. Mitsuru gets the feeling that this is the work of shadows targeting humans and tells Natsuki to stay in her room tonight. Mitsuru believes that Fuka is still alive and trapped within Tartarus and that they need to rescue her. Akihiko says that while it has been 10 days in the real world, Tartarus adds time distortion, so she's really only been there for 10 dark hours, which only lasts an hour, so 10 hours total. They sneak into the school after hours to see that Natsuki is being called out to by a shadow. The team gets separated as Tartarus forms around them, and Fuka actually finds them by herself, revealing to them that she's been able to avoid the monsters for 10 hours straight thanks to her ability to detect shadows. Akihiko thinks, based on that she must have sensory powers even stronger than Mitsuru's and hands her her own evoker. The moon hits Junpei's eye like a big fat fucking pizza pie, and Akihiko remarks that the phases of the moon affect shadow behavior just like it affects human behavior, which is not something I believed until I dated a nurse. Apparently, hospitals are a wild and wacky place to be on a full moon. Heading back to the base level of Tartarus, the gang find Mitsuru and Yukari getting their asses handed to them by two powerful shadows. Natsuki is also there, and she apologizes to Fuka in a daze. The powerful Empress persona goes to attack Fuka and Natsuki, but Fuka reacts in time, whipping out her evoker and summoning her persona. Fuka summons Saint Lucia, the Christian virgin martyr and patron saint of the blind. Fuka also mentions to the group that she can detect the shadow's weaknesses as well now. And if we're allowed to have figures from Christian mythology as personas, then let me just come forward and say that I want my persona to either be Larry the Cucumber, Bob the Tomato, or Mr. Lunt, the decorative gourd who sings My Cheeseburger. Who's your favorite Bible figure? You got Moses, you got Job, you got Ruth. No, that'll be Larry the Cucumber. That'll be Bob the Tomato, please. That'll be broccoli, celery, gotta be VeggieTales. Cauliflower, half an hour. VeggieTales. Mitsuru also is able to tell that Fuka is one with the intel, so she allows Fuka to take over as the role of guide for the group, and with her guidance the group put the hurt on those two powerful shadows. After the battle, Fuka then passes out from exhaustion, and Mitsuru notes that even though Natsuki will forget these events, the feeling of a change of heart and gratefulness for Fuka's actions will still remain. JC Turtleneck then assembles the Seas Vengers, telling them that the three victims of the shadows had awoken, and formally invites Fuka to join Seas. Ikutsuki also informs the group that a bunch of moms in the United States have confused him for Jesus Christ and have been liking and reposting pictures of him and not Jesus on Facebook. Like and share if you love Jesus. Ignore for the devil. Ikutsuki also tells them that they should plan their actions around the full moon because that's when strong shadows come out. Natsuki and Fuka become friends, and Natsuki agrees to get the other girls to stop bullying Fuka. That night, Ebenezer Scrooge's weird little guy visits Makoto again, telling him that his power has grown and that the boy's name is Pharos and he would like to befriend Makoto. Makoto continues to branch out, exploring the city and showing Elizabeth many of the things she was curious about, like escalators and slides that look like they would have no issues at annihilating Boston police officers. Elizabeth grows increasingly fond of little old Makoto and makes a list of old documents and reports found within Tartarus that hint at a dark, mysterious history, and revealing that they were left behind by the current owner of the antique shop in the mall, who, because of her research, has found a way to fuse personas with weapons to make them even stronger. Makoto then gets back to his classic Mother Teresa ways, helping the sports team manager rediscover her love of coaching, and helps the old couple who run the bookstore come to terms with the loss of their son who used to teach at the school. Mother goddamn Makoto, Oprah Winfrey Teresa, also finds a lonely little girl on a playground and helps her deal with the stress of her parents going through a divorce. Later on, Makoto sees Yukari and Fuka playing with a very smart little puppy named Koromaru, who lives nearby at a shrine, standing guard out of loyalty to the priest he used to belong to before the late priest passed away. At the next meeting of Seas, Ikutsuki explains to the group that he's been selected to participate in an exclusive modeling campaign for Italian wool turtlenecks. He also tells them that shadows can be divided into 12 categories based on their characteristics and their arcana. He tells them the 4 special shadows they've defeated already are categories 1 through 4, meaning he suspects there are 12 total with 8 remaining. During the next dark hour, we see 3 wackos in absolutely insane outfits carrying out assassination contracts in the alley. They somehow have the ability to free people from their coffins during the dark hour. Meanwhile, Yukari asks Fuka, who is a gamer, to look into the history of their school because 10 years ago it was reported that a large number of students were missing at the same time shadows were seen. And Yukari also mentions that Mitsuru acts all weird whenever people ask about the origins of Tartarus. Meanwhile, the group also prepares for their next big fight for the full moon in July. Ikutsuki, who just got back from an oddly provocative photo shoot of him wearing 3 turtlenecks and a bubble bath, mentions that members of the Lost or those afflicted with the apathy syndrome have been popping up at the Love Hotel. Mitsuru now takes her place on the battlefield, allowing Fuka to fulfill the support/information role. The group defeat the powerful Hierophant Shadow, but then suddenly black out next to a strange mirror. The next thing Makoto knows, he's popped a squat on a bed while Yukari takes a shower. Some weirdo voices in Makoto's head telling him to give in to his weirdo desires or something, but he resists, and so does Yukari, but she does slap him out of embarrassment and run away. Fuka warns them that there's another shadow nearby, sealing them into the Love Hotel that they'll have to fight. The team confront the Lover's Arcana, sealing them in, but even after all that, they're still being observed as they exit the hotel by the worst dressed folks in all of Japan. That's right, it's Discount Spirit Halloween, Jesus Christ, Dan the Hacker Man, and unemployed Sumire? The Dark Hour fashion assassins have been tracking Seize for the past couple months and don't show any signs of stopping. At the next Seize Club meeting, Akutsuki notifies them that they've formally changed the club name to Turtlenecks Weekly, where they will explicitly discuss which turts they've been rocking. Anyways, Yukari takes the research Fuka did and confronts Mitsuru about the origins of Tartarus. Mitsuru says she wasn't hiding anything but agrees to share everything she knows. Mitsuru says that, to start, 14 years ago her grandfather Koetsu Kirijo researched shadows and their ability to affect time and space. Not soon after he started researching, he then became obsessed with trying to harness the power and spent years gathering researchers and shadows for them to study. But 10 years ago, during the final stages of the experiment, they lost control, which resulted in an explosion that killed almost everything there and created the Dark Hour and Tartarus. According to their reports, the massive shadows they'd collected split into several large ones that escaped, which are the special shadows the team now hunts during the full moon. The old site of the experiment is now Gekkoukan High School, which is why the school turns into Tartarus and all those students were hospitalized. Yukari is not down for this and is outraged at the fact that they're just cleaning up the Kirijo group's mistakes. Mitsuru tells them that she never meant to deceive them, but does admit that she did recruit them because of their persona abilities, and she states that, unlike them though, she never got to choose. Professor X with hair reminds the group that the ones who are responsible for this are in the past and lost their lives as a result. He tells them that destroying these 12 special shadows will fix things. Akihiko then passes this information on to his buddy Shinjiro, and they reflect on how they've known each other for 14 years growing up in the same orphanage. And these guys, they're achieving Team Avatar levels of parentlessness. Can't believe that on top of all the shadows, the coffins, and mysteriously poorly dressed assassins, that they're also dealing with firebenders on the loose killing everyone's parents. What a world. Mitsuru then recruits Fuka to use her gamer information skills with Mitsuru's company ID card to find out even more about the Kirijo group. And Fuka's like, God damn, am I the only one around here that knows how to do a dadgum Google search? Meanwhile, in Yukari's room, she sits below her Nickelback posters rereading a letter written by her father 10 years ago. Her father was the head researcher for the Kirijo group on the Shadow Project, and he died alongside the other researchers in the explosion. That same night, Faro stops by to hang out with Makoto, telling him that the beginning of the end happened 10 years ago when his parents died. Faro tells Makoto not to worry though, because he says that he will stick by his side because they're friends. The following day, tensions are thick between Mitsuru and Yukari, but then Akutsuki comes in and tells them that his photo shoot is going to be on the cover of famous turtleneck magazine Turdy and Flirty Digest. He tells them all that they should take a trip once exams are over to Yakushima, which is where Mitsuru's father will also be vacationing. C's all begin to look forward to their beach trip, and then one day Turtleneck Messiah brings an elementary school boy by the name of Ken to the dorm. Surprise, surprise, Professor X with hair kidnaps another cool orphan. C's then heads out for Yakushima. Arriving there, they see Mitsuru's surly eye patch wearing father and decide to all head for the beach instead. On the beach, Makoto gets the odd feeling they're being watched, which for the ladies is doubly true as Junpei hypes up the girlies in their swimsuits. Later on, Mitsuru's dad, who's kind of like the hot fish from Nemo, tells Mitsuru that she needs to learn to trust others and tells her that this is the guiding principle of the Kirijo group, essentially telling her that, like the 2009 song by Boys Like Girls featuring Taylor Swift, 2 is better than 1. Their actual slogan, though, is 2 in harmony beats 1 in perfection, which has been their motto since they separated from the Nanjo group. Papa Bear is also disappointed that Mitsuru doesn't even trust him, stating that he'd caught her snooping around in their databases rather than just asking him directly. She apologizes, but he tells her to go ahead and gather the group together as they had already planned on disclosing everything to them. That night, Mr. Kirijo reveals that his father, Koetsu's goal was to use the space-time distortion powers of shadows to create a time machine being able to control the flow of time and shape the future how they wanted. However, at some point during the research process, Koetsu then began to stray from his original goal, and in his later years it seemed that Koetsu only had chaos and nihilism in his heart, which warped the outcome of the experiment. Mr. Kirijo then pulls up some footage of the incident recorded by Yukari's father, wherein Yukari's father accepts blame for the failure of the project, saying that he realized the risk involved in releasing all the shadows, but he felt he was preventing a greater disaster from taking place had the project succeeded. He then urges them to try and defeat the shadows, and Yukari is shocked to see her father taking responsibility for the incident. Yukari yells at Mitsuru, asking if she was hiding this because she pitied her. Makoto chases after Yukari, where she then tells him that for years she blamed her father for everything, even though she defended and believed in him. Seeing that he actually may have been at fault for the event devastates her. She feels lost now, but Makoto urges her to not lose hope and continue fighting alongside them instead. She thanks him and gives him a hug. Junpei then comes over shortly after that to bring them both back in. The next day, Junpei then proceeds to try and lead a master class on how to pick up ladies. I don't think I have to tell you that it does not go well. What I am legally required to tell you though is that they do see a questionable teacher from Inaba on the beach. We'll see you in the next game, girly. Makoto then approaches a blonde girl on a dock and she turns around in shock, stating that she'd actually been looking for him. Later that same day, the Turded Wonder then introduced the blonde girl as Aegis, an anti-shadow weaponized android and the newest member of Team C's. She's the last robot of her kind from 10 years ago, and she has the persona Palladian, the Greek protector. She has a will of her own and says that her highest priority is to protect Makoto. Back in town, we see the most fashionably challenged characters in this game all hanging out together. The Dark Hour fashion assassins are handing off pills to Shinjiro, part of a regular exchange they have, but this time the assassins are looking for information on C's. Hesitating, Shinjiro finally tells them that they are planning on wiping out all the special shadows and ending the Dark Hour. The assassins are not happy about this, as it would impact their business significantly, and take it upon themselves to intervene. At school, Makoto is recruited to a competition within the sports club, and Ken and Aegis move into the dorm. Yukari isn't a big fan of how close Aegis sticks to Makoto, but look, Yukari, Aegis is a legend. You got some work to do. You're doing your other fellow lovers, Arcana girlies a disservice. You gotta shape up. Come on, Yukari. Let's be a girl's girl about it, alright? Come on. Then one night, the group are alerted to a shadow near a shrine, but once they head there, they find that Koromaru, look, he's already fucking whooped his ass. Don't even worry about it. When Koromaru is around, don't even fucking worry about it. He's got it. It's handled. However, though, in the process of handling the shadow, which he was perfectly capable of, he did so well. He did so great, but he did get a little small scratch, small little boo-boo scratch, small tiny, nothing for a strong canine hero such as himself, but the gang do end up taking him to a vet and wonder how a dog was able to defeat a shadow. Well, that's because this is no mere dog, this is Koromaru we're talking about, alright? This is national hero, Koromaru. It turns out Aegis speaks dog and she says that he was just trying to protect the shrine. And you can already probably tell at this point, but I love Koromaru. I would put a bullet in Teddy's stupid ass little round head in a dark Target parking lot for Koromaru. Write that down. Write it down. I would put a bullet in Teddy's head for much less, actually. You can write that down too. Makoto then travels to the sports club to a tournament in Inaba at Yasagami High School. Oh, I wrote that wrong. I'm so sorry. Mercedes-Benz High School. There they see a middle school girl named Yukiko. Hey, what that? Oh my god, that's great. That's Yukiko, dude. The middle school girl named Yukiko, a young hotel mogul, hustling hard at the family business. She escorts Makoto and the gang to their rooms in the illustrious Amagi Inn in small little quaint Inaba. And let me tell you something about the Amagi Inn. It makes the Ritz-Carlton look like a show. They pride themselves on their work over there. The pillow, mint. The service, immaculate. Makoto unfortunately doesn't win his meet, but it does impress the champ, who offers to train with Makoto. Returning home, Makoto then helps the champ make a big life decision. Should he choose to retire from his sports career and get a job to help support his mother? Or should he try to continue to pursue a big sports scholarship? At night, Makoto then helps a drunk monk stop running away from his family and try to repair the broken bonds he left behind. Yukari also grows closer to Makoto, and he helps her mend a rocky relationship with her mother, and she finds herself falling in love with our boy, Mother Makoto, Teresa, patron saint of balling so goddamn hard. Gamer tag XX30 /_neckxx gathers the group on another full moon and sends the team after a special shadow hiding in an underground military bunker. For this time, they're intercepted by two of the assassins who have not gotten any better at dressing themselves. Dollar General Jesus Christ says his name is Takia, and his rejected Matrix Extra looking buddy says his name is Jin, and that their group's name is Strega. And their ultimate goal as Strega is to cover the world in pasta, such that everyone is then drowning in penne. And if you had an obscure reference to a Caldecott medal-winning children's book from 1975 on your bingo card for this video, you could go ahead and fill that in. You can check that one off. Dragonona, Caldecott, winner, 1975, little old woman, giant pot of never-ending pasta. Takia says they know C's wants to end the Dark Hour, and they don't want C's to do that because they don't want to lose their powers. Strega locks C's in the bunker, hoping they'll just die in there, which is pretty efficient, you gotta give them that. Inside, Fuka identifies that two shadows of the Justice and Chariot Arcana have fused with a tank, and the group takes the rogue shadow down, reporting back to JC Turdy McNeck about Strega. Barrows visits Makoto again, telling him that the end won't happen because of anyone specific, but it will happen because many people wish for it. Barrows says that that's not that strange because this includes those simply wishing for peace and an end to suffering. Makoto ponders on that one. What a quandary. But not for daggum long, because here comes Tanaka over the airways for me, baby, for me! Tanaka's shopping channel is on and he's offering bukus of big fat deals. After blowing all our pocket cash on veggie supplements, Mitsuru then brings in Koromaru, freshly kitted out with C's gear and headphones to listen to all the best hits of 2007, including Rihanna's Umbrella, Buy You a Drink by T-Pain, and Cyclone by Baby Bash. Oh, it's an evoker? Cool. No, that's what I thought it was. Koromaru says he wants to return the favor to the group for helping save his life. Koromaru's persona is the guardian of the underworld, Cerberus. God, I love him! Teddy and Morgana. What went wrong? What happened? They just don't make him like they used to. The school takes summer classes, and the school nurse, Mr. Edagawa, explains the modern 78 card tarot deck with major and minor arcana, and how it's a metaphor for an individual's journey from beginning to end. Meanwhile, out and about on the town, Junpei runs into a girl sketching by herself on a bench. And though we know that is unemployed Sumire from Strega, hey, Junpei, watch out. That is unemployed Sumire. She's with Strega. She's with the group that's trying to kill your friends. She's with Strega. Junpei, watch out. He doesn't know. It's a little dramatic irony there. A little dramatic irony. He's never seen her and Strega in the same room, so he doesn't know. Junpei has no idea. And so like the little guy he is, he just tries to make friends with her. And over time, with his silly, goofy nature, he wears down her hard exterior, and she introduces herself as Chidori. Elsewhere, Ken overhears Akihiko begging Shinjiro to rejoin C's. Akihiko tells him to let go of what happened 2 years ago when a woman died in an accident that Shinjiro caused near the train station. Ken then realizes that the accident they're talking about is the same one that killed his mom. A darkness rises within Ken, and he memorizes Shinjiro's name. Because who wouldn't? He killed your mom. I too would be like, hey, there's gonna be some consequences for killing my f***ing mom. Turdy introduces Ken to C's, saying that he insisted on joining C's alongside his persona Nemesis, the Greek goddess of revenge. This is not looking good. Shinjiro, I would move. Great little town called Inaba. It's really nice, and I hear that they really love transfer students, so maybe. Aigis also states that she'd like to go to school as well, and Turdy agrees that it would be a good idea to be able to study Aigis in a social environment. Yukari's still beefing with Aigis, and after school, Akihiko has Makoto come with him to talk to Shinjiro. Akihiko now points out to Shinjiro that there has never been a better time to join C's. They got a damn talking dog, talking battle dog. They got a talking battle robot. They're also fighting against a rogue group of persona users called Strega, and most of all, Shinjiro, get ready for this one, they have just had a new member join, an elementary school student named Ken Amada. Shocked to hear Ken's name, Shinjiro immediately reconsiders his decision to join C's. Shinjiro agrees to join them, reuniting his and Akihiko's persona pair, the Caster, to Akihiko's Pollux. The day before the next full moon, Junpei brags to Chidori that he's the leader of a team fighting monsters to protect the world. He tells her about his friends and his persona, and that night, he's captured by Chidori. Chidori tells him to cancel their mission, and the rest of C's can't find Junpei, but they continue on with their plans to fight the special shadow. The shadows hold up in the Polonium Mall, possessing the electrical wiring within the mall itself. They defeat the Herman Arcana shadow possessing the mall, and Fuka is then able to locate Junpei. Chidori then senses that the Herman Arcana shadow has been destroyed destroyed, which upsets her that his team went through with their plan anyways despite what she asked. Chidori then reveals her persona of the Greek sorceress Medea, and Junpei reveals to her that he's not actually the team leader, and while that was a lie, he really hopes that their friendship wasn't. At that moment, the team then confront Chidori and capture her, impressed that her powers were able to go undetected. Mitsuru decides then that they should question her and end up taking her to a hospital because they're worried about her emotional stability. She refuses questioning, and Junpei jumps to her defense, confessing his feeling for her, and Chidori chooses only to speak to him. Time passes. Junpei spends every day with Chidori in the hospital, but one day they see Chidori gasp and see her own persona trying to strangle her. Fortunately though, Shinjiro is there to give her one of his persona suppressing pills, saying that she and the others in Strega can't fully control their personas. Outside, Akihiko confronts Shinjiro and asks him why he even has those pills, saying that they have deadly side effects. Akihiko socks him one, begging him to remember 10 years ago when Akihiko's little sister died in a fire and Akihiko was too weak to save her. He reminds Shinjiro that since that day they both vowed to get stronger, strong enough to do what they think is right. He's saddened to see his lifelong friend turning to drugs before turning to him for help. And Shinjiro cryptically says that there's still only one thing that he can do, and walks away, agreeing that they should both keep doing what they think is right. The days go by, Junpei continues to visit Chidori, and she reveals that she has the power to breathe life into things. And the pair get to know each other more, growing closer as the days go by. Meanwhile, we learn that Shinjiro has a passion for cooking, and he loves to take care of Koromaru. And Makoto helps Fuka improve her cooking as well. In early October, we get another full moon, and the next special shadow appears at the train station. Though this time, Ken and Shinjiro are missing from the group. The gang go ahead and defeat the special shadows, this time representing the strength and fortune arcanas. And after that battle, Akihiko and Mitsuru realize what day it is, now knowing exactly where Shinjiro and Ken are. 2 years ago on this day in the early days of Seas, the group were chasing a shadow through a residential area when Shinjiro lost control of his persona and accidentally murdered Ken's mother. Meanwhile, Ken waits for Shinjiro with his weapon drawn, telling him he's going to kill Shinjiro and avenge his mother. Shinjiro submits, not moving to defend himself, and tells him to go through with his revenge. Shinjiro deeply regrets his mistake, wishing he could forget about it. He left Seas and school and took drugs to suppress his persona so he wouldn't hurt anyone ever again. Shinjiro is fine with Ken killing him, but Shinjiro warns Ken that if he does kill him, he'll end up like Shinjiro. Takia pops in to agree, saying that's the way of the cycle of revenge. If only some naked-ass Dollar General Jesus Christ had appeared to Ellie in The Last of Us and told her that perhaps then The Last of Us 2 would have thankfully been a much shorter game. Takia then takes out his revolver and intends to kill both of them for kidnapping Chidori, but also tells Ken that whether Ken kills Shinjiro or not, Shinjiro was gonna die anyway because of all the suppressants he's been taking. Ken says he won't be robbed of revenge in this way, and Takia says it doesn't matter, as he knows Ken intended to kill himself after killing Shinjiro anyways. Takia fires, and Shinjiro leaps in front of Ken, taking multiple bullets for him until the rest of Seas arrive and Takia splits. With his last few dying breaths, Shinjiro tells Ken to let his anger be his strength and to not waste his life going forward. Shinjiro asks Akihiko to take care of Ken from here on out, and he dies on his feet with a smile of relief on his face. Ken breaks down, crying. The next day, the school has a memorial for Shinjiro, and Akihiko mourns his friend, resolving to drop his guilt and move on for his sister Miki and his best friend's sake. Akihiko's resolve strengthens, and his persona evolves into Caesar, the Roman general and emperor. The next day, Akihiko finds Ken at the train station, now the scene of both his mother's death and Shinjiro's. Both died protecting him, but Akihiko tells him that now it's up to him what to do next and that the dead will never return. Ken admits that this whole time he's been running from loneliness, just to be consumed by hatred and finding himself alone again in the end. Ken promises to Shinjiro that he'll see the mission through to the end and finally says goodbye to his mother. Ken hardens his resolve as well, and his persona evolves into the Hindu spirit Kala Nemi. Ken returns to the group, telling them that he wants to stay and fight, and Farus returns to Makoto that night. Farus tells Makoto that people die every day. It's common, but it matters more if it happens to a friend. Back at school, Natsuki is surprised to hear that Fuka cares that she's moving away and thanks her for giving her a second chance. Fuka thinks to herself that even if they're apart, they'll still be connected. Fuka realizes that through her persona, she has the power to stay connected to her friends, and this allows her to grow her persona through the Roman goddess Juno, queen of the gods. After school, Yukari and Mitsuru have a serious chat. Yukari tells her that she thinks her reason for fighting now is to clean up the mistakes her father left behind, and that gives Mitsuru a lot to consider as well. The crew gathered together on the next full moon to face face the 12th and final shadow on the Moonlight Bridge. Waiting for them on the Moonlight Bridge is Strega, Takia this time choosing to fight them directly with his persona Hypnos, the god of sleep, alongside Jin, whose persona is the Greek spirit of doom, Moros. The group take them down, and Akihiko learns they were the ones who supplied Shinjiro with the pills. Jin and Takia leap off the bridge to escape for now. They're then attacked by a final special shadow, the Hanged Helicopter Man Arcana. The gang finish their mission, destroying the attack chopper persona, and say their goodbyes to the Dark Hour. The next night, Makoto is then once again visited by Pharos, but this time he sees him during the day. He tells Makoto that all the fragments of his memory have come together and he now knows what his role is. Pharos tells Makoto that this will be their final meeting, and he thanks Makoto for his friendship. Persona 3 has a lot of connections back to Persona 1 in the soundtrack, the game itself, and in the characters. If you remember the Snow Queen route from Persona 1, you'll remember that the three personas guarding the three towers formed around the school are Hypnos, Nemesis, and Thanatos. So you might at this point a little bit maybe be reminded of a certain promise made in Persona 1 that we're headed toward with all of this. The next day, the group celebrate the destruction of all the special shadows with a sushi feast, but they notice that Dr. Professor Turtleneck must have taken Aigis somewhere as she isn't among them. Mr. Kirijo arrives to thank them for completing their mission. He dissolves seas and tells them to go on about their lives and enjoy their youth in a more normal way. Junpei insists that seas take a final group picture, and they now have a goofy little photo to remember the occasion. However, as midnight passes, they find themselves in the Dark Hour once more and hear a loud bell toll. Mitsuru has a bad feeling about this and assembles the group, taking them to Tartarus where the bell sound emanates from. Waiting for them is Aigis, who is acting strangely robotic alongside Dr. Professor Turdy Wordy. Mitsuru accuses Turt of lying this whole time about defeating the 12 shadows and ending the Dark Hour. Chairman Turtle McSquirtle confirms this, saying that defeating the 12 shadows was all according to plan, and that the 12 shadows were all fragments that, when destroyed, would reunite into one whole as Death, who would usher in the fall, or the end of the world as they know it, which in turn would free everyone from suffering and despair and mark the beginning of a new world. Squirtle the traitor also reveals that he was one of the scientists that originally studied shadows those 10 years ago. He says Tartarus and the Dark Hour are a result of their success and not byproducts of a tragic accident. He also reveals that back then they were trying to collect shadows to bring about the fall. He also reveals that he doctored the video of Yukari's dad, saying he was trying to prevent it. Squirts McTurts then orders a reprogrammed Aigis to knock the kids out and prepare them to be sacrificed. In an incredibly dark twist, JC Turtleneck Christ puts all the kiddos up on crosses and captures Mr. Kirijo, who opposed Koetsu's goal for a chaotic end. He orders Aigis to kill Kirijo, but Aigis hesitates. Turt pulls out his own gun, but Quick Draw Kirijo whips out his as well, and the two end up shooting each other with Mitsuru's father falling first. Turts orders Aigis to kill the group, but Koromaru jumps in, grabbing the device controlling Aigis, and Aigis, now back to her senses, frees the group instead. As Turdy Boy lies dying, he repeats that this world is beyond saving and will only get worse. Only by destroying it can they start fresh and save it. He states that he was so close to ruling this new world and falls off the edge, laughing to himself as he dies. Mitsuru mourns her father. She says he wanted to atone for the past to the point that it cost him his life. She became a Persona user because she wanted to protect him, but has ultimately failed. The following day, the death of Mr. Kirijo is covered up, and Mitsuru is left to handle everything as the sole heir to the Kirijo group. Seas continued to question this mysterious fall that Turts was obsessed with, and question why they were about to be sacrificed. Hackerman Fuka finds the original video of Yukari's father where he rejects the purpose of the experiment and intentionally caused the incident to sabotage it. Yukari's dad then in the video urges everyone not to hunt the shadows and says that if they recombine, everyone is doomed. Really could have used this information earlier, Mr. Yukari's dad. Seeing her father die to protect everyone, Yukari is inspired and her persona evolves to the Egyptian goddess Isis. Soon after, a transfer student named Ryoji joins Makoto's class. Ryoji has a pretty crazy scarf and he's very forward with the ladies. However, Aigis fucking hates his guts. Ryoji seems to get along with everyone else well though, including Junpei. Days pass and Yukari tries to reach out to Mitsuru, trying to connect with her over the shared loss of their fathers. Junpei continues to visit Chidori and the class take a trip to Kyoto, staying at an inn with a hot spring. Mitsuru continues to blame herself for falling into Turdy's trap and failing to protect her dad. Yukari slaps her back to her senses and tells her she isn't a failure, and like her father who died trying to stop the experiment, they all just need to keep fighting towards their goals. Mitsuru agrees and finds new purpose, which evolves her persona into Artemisia, the Greek warrior queen. Meanwhile, Makoto saves the boys' lives as Junpei and Ryoji try and fail to sneak a peek at the girl's side of the hot spring. Returning home, Makoto gives Ken some souvenirs from their trip, and Takia and Jin crawl out of hiding to break Chidori out of the hospital. She agrees to go, but leaves her sketchbook behind. Using her power, she's able to contact Fuka directly and speak through her, challenging all of C's to a fight. Mitsuru feels like it's a trap. Junpei calls out to Chidori, asking her to stop the fighting. The group catch up to her and beat her in a duel. She says she doesn't fear death and instead chooses to live in the moment, and that's Strega's motto. Live fast, die fucking hard, and wear the shittiest clothes you possibly can in every moment in between, baby. Chidori says she couldn't take the burden of the relationship between her and Junpei, and she says she fears being away from him even when she's with him. Takia and Jin then appear, seeing Chidori as beyond saving in their eyes. Junpei tries to get Chidori to leave Strega and come with them, but Takia shoots Junpei immediately, killing him. In his mind, we see Junpei speaking to Chidori, who admits that she was wrong for pushing him away and tells him that she loves him and that she wants to wear matching cowboy belt buckles with him for forever and into eternity, and they can dress like Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce for Halloween, but Junpei can dress as Taylor Swift because he's just a funny, silly little guy. But no, actually Junpei isn't dead, because then Chidori uses her power to transfer all of her life force into him to save him. Takia, who clearly does not understand the beauty of love and couples' Halloween costumes, interrupts their moment and calls Chidori's sacrifice meaningless, to which one could argue, yeah, if Takia gadded him in the first place 50 seconds ago, what's stopping him now? I'll tell you what's stopping him. Rictomaniasis, baby! Trismegistus! Baby, Miss Madrivius, Trismegistus, baby. Anyways, Trismegistus is the synchro summon superfusion between the Greek god of NASCAR Hermes and the Egyptian god of wisdom Thoth, who blows Jin away, forcing him to then use a smoke bomb to allow him and Takia to escape. Following this encounter, a few days pass, and Mitsuru shows Junpei Chidori's final works of art in her notebook. Amongst all the fan art of Naruto and Sasuke making out, there's also an incredibly detailed drawing of Junpei with six-pack abs and a flamethrower in each hand, but he's also still somehow simultaneously breathing fire. It's awesome. Junpei takes this as a sign to move on, devoting himself to getting rid of the Dark Hour and squashing the jealousy he felt towards Makoto for being their leader. Aiga says to herself that she doesn't necessarily understand the feeling of what it's like to be alive, but does understand the feeling of loss. She tells Makoto that he's important to her and knows what she needs to do to protect him. On the side, Mitsuru orders a full autopsy on Chidori, but is shocked to hear that her body is still alive. In the beginning of December, the first full moon arrives and we see Aigus confronting Ryoji at the Moonlight Bridge. Aigus calls him out for not being human and knows she met him 10 years ago, battled him, and sealed him away because he's actually Death and not Ryoji. Ryoji confirms that he was born 10 years ago as the 13th Arcana that was never meant to be, and he also says he won't last long in this world. Back then, 10 years ago when they first fought, Ryoji wasn't fully formed, but he was still more than a match for Aigus. They battled on the bridge and fought so fiercely that in the crossfire, 2 children's parents were killed, one of them being Makoto Yuki, the other Kotane Shiomi. Aigus realized in that moment on the bridge all those years ago that she had to find a way to seal Death away, and ended up choosing to seal it inside the boy, Makoto Yuki. Since that day, the 13th Arcana, Death, would live sealed away within Makoto, and as a result, Death lost its memories and a piece of itself. Ryoji warns Aigus that with his memories restored, she won't be able to defeat him, and he easily blocks her attack. Meanwhile, back at C's, Fuka senses a persona in Aigus' presence, then nothing. Fuka is able to locate Aigus and the team rush to help her. Ryoji then approaches C's and tells them he is the combination of all 12 Arcana and is known as the Appriser. He tells them that it is him who will bring forth the one called the Maternal Being. He tells them that 10 years ago he was created when the Kirijo experiment collected a large mass of shadows, but when Yukari's father tampered with the experiment, he awoke incomplete and was then battled down to the ground by Aigus, who locked him away inside Makoto. At this point, we learn that Pharos, the little guy who visits Makoto in his dreams, is Ryoji, who is Death, who was locked away inside Makoto by Aigus, who was activated when Makoto's persona Orpheus came on out, and subsequently also activated the 12 pieces of Pharos, which were the 12 special shadows that they had to defeat so he could reassemble himself and become the Appriser. The Appriser sounds like one of those fake-ass made-up nicknames that TV lawyers give themselves in their ads. I'll be your attorney. Call me Daryl Dinglehopper, the fucking Eagle. Together we soar, baby.
This advertisement was paid for by the offices of attorney Daryl Dinglehopper, the Eagle. Terms and fees may apply.
Daryl, nobody who walks in the deposition and calls you the eagle. Ryoji does though seem chill enough, so they do take him back to the dorm and have a little chat. Ryoji tells them that the maternal being is an entity known as Nyx, the mother of shadows. If Nyx comes around though, here's the thing. The world will be plunged into darkness and all life will vanish from the earth and everyone will become afflicted with the apathy syndrome and become lost. And folks, you're probably wondering at home what our gamers will do about this, you know, to stop the end of the world. And it turns out you cannot stop it. Ryoji says his appearance has already started to fall and that Nyx is on her way. She's already booked her flight, she's used her airline miles, she's a very, very responsible traveler, and she will not be missing this flight for the world. Very, very sadly for all of us in humanity here. Ryoji then, in the most dramatic way possible, tells the group that everyone here will be dead and will probably not live to see spring. But dear viewer, I know you're looking at me and I'm looking at you, and then I'm also looking at my script sometimes and then back at you, but you're looking at me and I'm looking at you and you are thinking the same thing that I am thinking, which is there's a Persona 5 and also a Persona 4 after this game. Yukiko, who we just saw like 20 minutes ago, we know for a fact that she unfortunately lives long enough to have to hang out with Yosuke, and that means the world didn't end, right? So our heroes hop to problem solving and we learn that Nyx is unfortunately unkillable because she is death herself. She's been given Bethesda unkillable character immunity and we can't take that away by just bopping around on the console and typing kill. Option number 2, Ryoji says that they can kill him, which won't actually kill him, it will instead just reverse all their knowledge of this and they'll be able to live a few blissful weeks or months as normal students and then inevitably die in the eternal night kablamo. Since option 1 is not really viable, Ryoji gives them until midnight on New Year's to decide if they would like to kill him, which is a heavy thing to carry around and think about for our friends. Elizabeth tells Makoto that she enjoys hanging out with him, and Makoto meets a young man with a debilitating genetic disease. They have a conversation about death and the young man begins to accept and come to terms with the finality of it, deciding to also find gratitude for what life he was able to live. Look gamer, don't cry because it's over, smile because we lived, laughed, and loved the whole way through. Then Makoto meets Vincent from Catherine, who has been having nightmares and wonders if he might actually die in these nightmares. And I gotta tell you, those are only gonna get weirder before they get better. Vincenzo then admits he's betrayed his girlfriend and asks Makoto if he thinks that that might have something to do with his bad dreams. And Vince, yes, absolutely it does. But then Vince is like, you know what, Makoto, you seem like a busy guy. My problem's really got nothing to do with you, man. You look like you got bigger sheep to shear, if you know what I'm saying. And the gang all decide not to lose their memories and go down swinging instead. Aigis though feels kind of useless at this point because she's a robot who can't fulfill her purpose of protecting Makoto. The gang tell her she can just pick a new purpose, and she decides her purpose will be to live. And with her new purpose comes a brand new persona, the Greek goddess of wisdom and the art of war, Athena. My personal favorite. I think Athena's pretty cool. And yeah, I did have a crush on Annabeth when I read Percy Jackson in middle school. Who didn't? You know? And you know what else? I'll freaking say it. The children of Athena in the Percy Jackson books were robbed. They were robbed. Percy got to be a daggum. All Annabeth got was ADHD, dyslexia, and a goddamn MacBook. New Year's Eve arrives. Makoto decides to make a deal with the Billy Mays of the Persona universe in an effort to get enough OxyClean to clean this big ol' eternal night mess to come. Makoto then lets Ryoji know that he and the gang will not be killing him, and Ryoji reveals his shadow form, Thanatos. Ryoji tells Seize that they can face Nyx at the very top of Tartarus on the final day, January 31st. Ryoji tells them, in fact, that Tartarus the Tower exists purely for Nyx's arrival, and Ryoji will also be there because it's his duty to help bring about the end. He wishes them a happy new year and then heads out, to which the gang decide to visit the shrine and try to bring themselves a bit of good new year luck for their coming battle. We got bigger fish to fry, such as a new cult that is formed, and they are the Cult of Nyx. Crazy enough. But even crazier is that they're literally just running around like little town criers with waving their bells and shouting, "The end is near! The end is near!" In other news, turtleneck sales have gone down 14% since the passing of Dirty McSquirty. Later, Mitsuru reveals that Chidori is alive, and that really, when you think about it in the grand scheme of Naruto, Chidori's not even really that good of a move. Mitsuru also tells the gang that she much prefers Rasengan. Junpei rushes to the hospital to see Chidori healing, but is now a normal person without persona powers. Which, what's so wrong with that? What's so wrong with being a little normie in Persona Land? I'd rather be over here snug-a-dub-dub in my coffin than dead. I don't know. Y'all go ahead out to the dark hour. Me? I'm getting damn cozy in here. That is until I manifest Larry the fucking cucumber and then I have to get out and do something about it. Jeez. But even though Chidori's alive, she turns Junpei into Adam Sandler in 50 First Dates because she's forgotten everything that happened to her after she got her persona. So Junpei, I'm so sorry. She does not know who you are, my man. The nurse says that the flowers she used to keep alive with her powers were placed on her dead body and she sucked those flowers dry and returned to life. Chidori feels like those years were just a dream and she remembers a particular boy that made her happy. Junpei is pogging for sure. Still in there, baby. That's right. That's my impact. And Mitsuru is amazed that love is still in fact, after goddamn all, still love, baby. That's right. Aigis gives her quarterly emotion report to Makoto, stating that originally she felt scared and wanted to be with Makoto to monitor him, but now she's realizing it's just because she likes him, maybe even a little bit loves him with her dope little robo heart. As the end draws near, the gang all hang out and Ken's running at full speed on top of this jungle gym like a goddamn baby lemur. And they also all make a plan to meet up no matter what on graduation day in an epic classic slice of life ass anime moment. Now known as the Nyx Annihilation Squad, Naz. Oh, little Naz. Are you working on your raps, little Naz? They climb Tartarus but run into Jin, the fashionably challenged micro-celebrity dark hour hitman who reveals to them that Squirty McTurdy at 12 goddamn 30 created the Stray Kiddos. And then he loses heart to little Naz. Jin loses live on YouTube.com and all of his chatters deface and do little guy head in hands emoji. Jin, unfortunately will no longer ever be going live again because everyone might be dead after this. Who knows? If he's not though, he will be live Saturday night. But as Jin's final piece of content, he leaks to the group that Kirijo used to round up orphans and homeless kids for their experiment to artificially induce personas and research Tartarus. Out of 100 stolen children, only Jin, Takia, and Chidori survived. That's insane. Between kids dying in Tartarus and their own personas killing them, or the drugs, this was just a fucking slaughterhouse for kiddos. This had a lower survival rate for children than the damn tuning exam. Perhaps even worse than Willy Wonka's facility. Shadows then close in around them, and Jin does the old Steve Rogers jump on the grenade, except he's doing it so he doesn't get violently torn apart by shadows and not because he's just a sweet little guy. Takia pops out next on his philosophy grind and tells them that the birth of Nyx is no one's fault in particular, that humanity wanted it all along. Just like the children yearn for the mines, all the depressed adults yearn for the sweet release of death. The team fart all over Takia, but they don't kill him, and then we get an insane upskirt of Ryoji as the evolved avatar of Nyx. Like, I guess it's trying to show that he's tall, but I feel like I'm getting Lady Dimitrescu'd. Don't look, guys. Close your eyes. Don't look. Be damn respectful. Come on. His personas Orpheus and Thanatos have fused to create a biggin, as they say. A big old guy, as it were. And turns out, Makoto can do that too. And he literally becomes Jesus Christ. Makoto literally has the power of friendship, God, and anime within him. And this is exactly like the Easter play at my childhood church, where in the 11th hour of the 11th hour, the youth pastor dressed as Jesus Christ comes back from the dead and punches the shit out of the guy playing Satan. And that's exactly the vibe that's within everyone's hearts as they gear up to dust this big creepy guy. The Nyx avatar states that the Arcana reveal all and cycles through the Arcana as they battle in the battle for everyone's souls. They knock the Nyx avatar down, and the Nyx avatar tells them that this could have been prevented if more people were like them and had the will to carry on. But it's a little too late now because there was too much mind yearning from the entire human race. So, sorry about it. The Nyx avatar rises up, revealing that the moon has split open, revealing a gigantic red eyeball. Okay, Majora's Mask. Okay, Fear and Hunger Termina. Normal people are now awakened during the dark hour and see the nightmare around them. Some pog at the correct prediction of the end of the world and are immediately vaporized, just as they wanted. Takia laughs at them for still trying to oppose the inevitable, and Makoto is brought into the Velvet Room to speak with Igor. Igor tells him in this critical moment that everything he's done, all the social links he's built, will determine his potential, and their combined friendship will be his power. Makoto is him. He has the power of friendship, he's got the power of God, he's got the power of anime, he's him, dude. Other Makoto Teresa watches as a gigantic energy ball is formed from the love of all his friends and allies. All the people he's helped along along the way, his impact on the world all flash before him, and they send their energy to him like Vanessa Hudgens singing her heart out from the bleachers to send good vibes to Troy Bolton on the basketball court for everyone's souls. Now Makoto has a new power and a choice to bring about the ultimate end or a new beginning. Igor tells Makoto that now he may be able to defeat the one who cannot be defeated. Fate has also granted Makoto the wild card, and as a result, their contract has been fulfilled. Igor has helped him achieve this power, and now it's Makoto's time to make the ultimate decision of how to use this power. Igor thanks Makoto and bids him farewell and tells him that he truly was a remarkable guest. The velvet elevator arrives at the top floor, its final destination, taking Makoto to the battle. Makoto faces the moon head on, rising up and entering it to face the unbeatable Nyx. Nyx is an incredible foe, but Makoto is propped up by not only his own resolve, but the wills of each and every one of all of his friends. Makoto now has the power he needs to seal Nyx away. Below, everyone watches as Tartarus falls and sees Makoto return miraculously as the dark hour ends and their memories of everything thus far cease to exist. A month passes and the students approach graduation day as nothing but normal, ordinary high school students, as if they'd never been anything but. Somehow, though, all of the lives Makoto was able to help all remember his impact on them in some way, including his old school RuneScape girlfriend Maya, who turns out was his teacher the entire time. What? And Tanaka gets away with tax evasion yet again. Everybody wins in the end. Except the Japanese government, I guess. But Aigis and Makoto still remember what happened, and they remember SEAS, and they remember what happened at the end. During the final assembly, other members of SEAS begin to also remember their adventures together and what they did. With their memories back, they all then run out to fulfill their promise to all meet up on graduation day. Makoto rests on Aigis' lap on the roof and decides she wants to be his strength and continue protecting him for forever. A blue butterfly passes by at this moment, and Makoto closes his eyes for the last time as all his friends arrive around him, finally remembering him completely just to watch him pass. Weeks pass, and as everyone prepares to move on and move out of the dorms, Yukari suddenly becomes, to be quite frank, a real turd about everything. Mitsuru understands and decides to give her space to cope. And Ken wonders why Makoto even died in the first place, saying the doctors didn't find anything in the autopsy. Fuka says he must have used up everything he had in order to protect them and save their world. And Mitsuru says that they should have a get-together that night to celebrate all together one last time before they head their separate ways. That night, the news reports say that the apathy syndrome has mysteriously ended, with cases miraculously dropping. But Strega's doomsday cult still stands, with a few last stragglers, or I guess you could say stragglers, still remaining. Mitsuru says they prevented the fall, but they still can't completely reform society. Which is Empress Arcana for, if can is what it is, Junpei. Midnight comes though, and everyone feels a strange familiar sensation. Though there is no dark hour, they see the date is March 31st again, and Mitsuru contacts Yukari and Akihiko, and Aigis thinks that ever since Makoto died, she's felt an incredible sadness and has been seeing the same dream over and over. Then one day, the sadness suddenly left her, and with it, the dream. She sees a shining blue butterfly around her, then hears a loud bang. A strange black android emerges from a hidden room and faces the group. The android seems to be the same model as Aigis and introduces herself as Metis. Metis says that she's here to protect Aigis. And to do that, she decides to kill the rest of the group, revealing that she's packing a persona of her own, Psyche, the Greek goddess of the soul. Aigis summons Athena to protect them against Psyche and Metis, but everyone is surprised to see Athena transform into Makoto's persona, Orpheus, to fend off Metis. At that moment, Aigis is taken into the Velvet Room, where Igor grants her the power of the wild card, allowing her to wield multiple personas just like Makoto was able to. Igor also notices that Makoto was able to find the answer to life and says that Aigis might be able to find that answer as well. And Aigis wonders if that answer to life is simply death. Igor responds by saying that if Aigis has friends, then strength of heart when united is barred by no door. Which sounds fucking sick, I don't know. Igor always coming through with bangers. And with that, we are now entering the answer epilogue section of Persona 3 Fez, short for festival. Aigis then wakes up finding that she's been given some extra armor and that Akihiko and Yukari have returned. Metis is getting heated over the fact that she has to protect her sister Aigis and rescue her from the Groundhog Day scenario that they've entered. The gang is getting groundhogged back to March 31st, and the gang have been stuck in the dorm all day. Metis explains that the abyss of time is below the dorm lobby, and it's essentially a fat desert of space-time distortion linked to the kid. kids. But Metis says the key, or rather the answer, might be within the abyss itself. C's, first of all, are f***ing P-coded up. P-code's out, as is Persona bonus content tradition. How else will we know we're in the added content if at least 2 characters are not fucking locking in the P-codes? Sorry, what I was going to say before Mitsuru popped out in the goddamn P-code. What I was going to say is that the group say they can't trust Metis because she's speaking nonsense and also tried to kill them. Fair. Mitsuru and the gang go to question Metis, but Metis, like an American politician, number 1, refuses to give any answer of substance, and number 2 is being manipulated by a major corporation. We'll get into that one in a bit. Mitsuru nominates Aigis as team captain, probably because she's got the Time Abyss Google Maps extension, and definitely because she now has the wildcard power, or because Metis only listens to Aigis. The group gears up for action again. Akihiko's put his daggum sweater vest back on, so you know he means business. And as they enter the Time Abyss, they see a human-shaped shadow entering a door. Entering the Abyss, they see the shadows are back in a major way, and this all seems to be just another go-around in Tartarus, following the humanoid shadow further in. Metis says that time is f***ed in the Time Abyss, fair enough, and that sometimes they may slip into the past, like right now as they enter the Paulownia Mall in June of 2009. Metis mentions that they're able to revisit places they've been to in the past. Bro, what I would give to have the damn Time Abyss under my house. Like, sure, I would potentially, have to fight a lot of shadows, but I'm down for that, because that's potential instantaneous access anytime I want to a Japanese 7-Eleven. I would fight this fat fucking Hulk Hogan. I would decimate this man 2,000 times over for as much onigiri as I can carry in my little gay hands anytime I want. Tokyo, 2019. No idea what COVID is. All I knew was onigiri and saying, holy shit, I've been here in Persona 5, dude. No way. Anyways, Paulownia Mall, 2009, 10 years before I experienced infinite access to onigiri and public transportation. Metis tells them that this place reflects their inner thoughts and feelings, and they wish for food and supplies, therefore their minds conjured them all. My inner thoughts would have produced the scene from episode 1 of BBC's hit television show The Poddington Peas, where Dumpy horks down about 40,000 of those cute little British cakes and then is too fat to fit through the door. I had Poddington Peas on VHS and watched that shit on repeat as a child. I had a random memory from the Poddington Peas appear in my mind one day a couple months ago, and found out that they have the whole series, the whole show on YouTube, and that it is in fact called the Poddington Peas and not the Podlin Peas as I thought when I was little. And they're the Poddington Peas obviously because the town is Poddington, and they're the peas that live in Poddington, and Podlin is not a real word. And in my defense though, they were just poddling around all the time, I don't know. Exploring the mall, they find it doesn't connect to the outside world, but does connect to the dorm lobby. They then witness moments from their past where each of them awaken to their personas. However, they notice that Makoto's door to his past is sealed. Reaching the bottom of the abyss, Fuka shares some research she found which reveals that the abyss formed as a reaction to the creation of Tartarus. Apparently, when Tartarus formed, it left a big fat hole, which is the abyss, but prior to this Groundhog Day mess, there weren't any shadows down there. Which, what a wild place for a dungeon. I'd accidentally stumble in there and die to Hulk Hogan night 1. Imagine you're up all night on Innocent Sin Online farming divorced moms when you should be doing your homework, and you go downstairs to make a delicious little treat, and all of a sudden you've Indiana Jonesed yourself into being held at gunpoint in a Japanese 7-Eleven in 2019. Or rather than worrying about whether 2019 Courtney and her persona Larry the Damn Cucumber from VeggieTales could body shadow Hulk Hogan, she could. She totally could. I know all you cognitive scientists at home are wondering, if Tartarus creation created the abyss, then why didn't Tartarus destruction also destroy the abyss? And that is because Atlas wanted to sell you another game, dummy! Oh, they got you! Oh, you're so lame, dude, they got you, bro! No, Metis quickly tells us that there's some force, not Atlas, connected to the abyss and the shadows in the abyss. And in the next door, they see Aigis' recurring dream. In her dream, she sees Makoto leaving, and Aigis succumbs to her sad feelings and becomes the shadow version of herself. A dark cloud appears before them, and Metis says that this must be the monster that's taken shape as Aigis' regrets. And believe it or not, it's Makoto! Or a musty little mummy-looking Makoto. Shadow Makoto then attacks with his and the party's personas, and Aigis and the gang destroy Shadow Makoto, who then dissolves into words and then also meat and flesh and bones, but also butterflies. Metis says he was just a shadow, but Junpei says that shadows can't use personas. And he's onto something there. But he isn't, because then Metis tells the group that personas are shadows. Metis explains that shadows are the lower parts of the psyche, the more hedonistic, lawless versions of ourselves that just want to shotgun Mountain Dew Code Blue laser beam and play Geometry Wars until our eyeballs fall out. When human beings suppress suppress these hedonistic desires and drown their gay little thoughts in things like having a full-time job and playing online Texas Hold'em, the shadows break free and then turn into Hulk Hogan's. However, Persona users are humans with special awareness of themselves that are able to control their shadow. Metis mentions that Personas have the ability to shape time and space, and their shared grief for the loss of Makoto was preventing them all from moving on. They realized that in their grief, they created their own prison, and then all manifest keys and must band together to exit and be rid of the abyss of time. However, the door to Makoto's room is still sealed, and they could go through that door and into Makoto's past, the true past, and the abyss will disappear as well. So now the gang has to choose between revisiting the past or accepting the past as it happened. Before they can choose, though, the abyss begins to become unstable with cracks forming all around them. They have to make their choice fast. So they hold a team meeting, and Junpei voices that he would be surprised if anyone was actually thinking of going back to the past. But then Ken asks simply, why do you think he died? Revealing the main question that's still on everyone's mind. They knew he gave his life to save the others, and Akihiko mentions that to undo that serious of a sacrifice just because they're sad they lost their friend would be a pretty thing to do. Akihiko states that he agrees with Ken and Junpei. They need to accept what happened and do their best to move forward. Yukari, though, wants to go back, saying essentially that she would do anything to try and save him. She says that this is the time travel power the Kirijo group was working toward the entire time, and that they have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to time travel. Clearly, Yukari hasn't ever consumed any time travel media, and unfortunately the Disney Channel original movie Minutemen will come out in 2008, which is tragically a year too late for her, because if she had seen the Disney Channel original movie Minutemen, then she would know that just because you can time travel does not mean you should. And Junpei agrees with me on that. Yukari calls on Aigis, saying her whole mission was to protect him and that they should take the keys by force to go back and save Makoto. She continues to ream on our robot queen and asking why she was even the one to inherit Makoto's power when she can't even make up her mind. Which I feel like now is probably a good time to talk about Yukari. When Persona 3 first became popular, many people hated Yukari's guts. She lashes out at her friends, sometimes pushing banter too far. She's incredibly hard on the other female members of the group, especially when they're first joining C's, and even if they're a robot. All of the things I just mentioned have been happening throughout the game. We've seen Yukari's jealousy combined with suspicion develop into somewhat of a rivalry or grudge towards Mitsuru because of the way her father died and because of the information Mitsuru has being linked to the Kirijo group. So why are we just now talking about Yukari? Well, the answer is where a lot of these complaints about Yukari's character all come to a head. And we have to remember that Yukari is an incredibly complex character. She carries the pain of her father's death and having to watch her mother try to move on with other not so cool guys. In her social link, Yukari learns to accept that her mom hasn't forgot about her dad and is just trying to cope with this loss just like her, and decides to go visit her mom. And by getting to know Makoto, she's also in some way allowing another guy in her life, which when you've lost someone can be hard. Now, of course, other characters in this game go through plenty of loss as well, and you might be thinking, hey, Mitsuru wasn't this much of a dick when Papa Kirijo received gridiron justice from a man in a turtleneck, but everyone handles loss differently. It's a process. It's a journey, and there's no right answer for how to handle things like that. But out of all the folks Yukari has beef with, she has maximum beef with Aigis, which is probably one of the more frustrating things about her character. We know that Aigis is incredibly protective of Makoto and wants to be close with Makoto, and this, as we know, rubs Yukari the wrong way, because Yukari just opened up to this guy, let him into her life, and now another woman, so to speak, is muscling into her territory. Another woman who then inherits Makoto's power and still isn't willing to go back to the past to save him, even though she said all those times that her main duty was to protect him. Is that a healthy mindset? Well, no. Is that a healthy way to conduct any friendship or relationship for that matter? No. Is it okay to be mad or fed up with someone's behavior despite what they've been through? Yeah. Is it now a bit more understandable why Yukari feels this way toward Aigis? Maybe. But the striking thing here is that Yukari is really the only one in the answer championing to go back to save Makoto, which is probably because it's not like a terribly difficult, debatable decision, especially coming off the back of the main story of Persona 3, where we just had to make the choice of whether it was better to live life blissfully, ignorant of death, just vibes up until the end, or if it's better to know the end is coming and be able to take advantage of the final moments and make the best of your life. This choice, going back and potentially fucking everything up just to go undo a sacrifice that their friend made, knowing that it could be the end for them, ripping away everything they gave their life for just to potentially save them after they had intentionally made that decision knowing it could cost them their life. It's selfish, and it's nonsensical, and it makes it really easy here to dogpile on Yukari. You can point, and you can laugh, and you can say like, clearly this dumb broad's never seen the Disney Channel original movie Minutemen, idiot, lame-o. But while here it's viewed as an incredibly stupid decision, you have to remember that she's doing the thing that normally all protagonists are praised for, choosing to do the impossible thing in the name of friendship or whatever. And sometimes Yukari be speaking the truth, I don't know. She calls Makoto Mr. Perfect, and that's pretty spot on. He's literally Makoto Mother Teresaing half the characters in this game and then summons Jesus Christ as his final persona. I feel like she hit that one. I feel like she nailed that one. I don't know. But look, okay, I'm not here to defend Yukari. I'm just saying that she is who she is. They're complex characters with issues that they're trying to cope with, not unlike ourselves. And that's okay if you don't like her. That's okay if you think she's annoying. I kind of think she's annoying sometimes too. You don't have to like everyone, and you can think people are annoying. While we're here in tangent no man's land, wherever we are, let's talk about Femc's route in Persona 3 Portable. Had you chosen to play P3P, you could have chosen to be a woman, and therefore would have had dateable guy confidants rather than dateable female confidants. This obviously throws a spanner in things and changes a lot of the social links based on your gender. Femc also actually uses a different weapon than Makoto, has the same persona, but for the most part, a lot of the social links are as good or better than Makoto's side of things. Except Ken's, which is really strange and should not exist. In fact, when P3P first came to the PC, one of the very first things modders did was take that out. Rightfully so. Very cool, modders. Femc is generally more upbeat than Makoto, and her take on the story is a bit brighter. There's also iceberg theories out there that say that her timeline ended because Theodore, Femc's Velvet Room attendant and male counterpart to Elizabeth, doesn't go on a journey at the end of the game, which somehow results in dooming her timeline. Don't quote me on that one though. I saw that in a Persona Iceberg lore video while on the elliptical in my college gym in 2021. So blame those lore guys. Blame those daggum lore guys. Anyways, wild tangent. I'm so sorry. We're back. If I ever suddenly become an insane person and decide to also recap Persona 4 Golden, that whole recap would just be wild tangents on characters. It would hardly be a recap. It would literally just be me airing out Yosuke's dirty laundry for an hour and 30 minutes. But anyways, the team pairs off, Mitsuru with Yukari, Ken with Akihiko, and Junpei and Koromaru eat Scooby snacks in the corner. Fuka remains as neutral as a delicious pot of Swiss fondue, and Junpei worries that they are tearing their group apart. Meta says, okay, at them. I'll take you guys to Tomato Town so y'all can damn duke it out. Whoever comes on top, that's who we're rocking with. Meta shares with Aigis that this is now the Thunderdome. This Coliseum is where she awakened not too long ago. She woke up about a month back only knowing two things. The first is that she had a sister, and the second being that something incredibly bad might happen if she didn't intervene. Which is kind of like when you switch to Trevor in GTA 5 and wake up half naked in a ditch surrounded by half-eaten Pop-Tarts and an assault rifle. Metis also reveals that this power Aigis has gained will come at the cost of her death. Aigis admits that by chasing after Makoto, she was just running away again and now needs to make a decision. Aigis realizes that she cares about the well-being of the others just as much as she cares about Makoto, so she whomps the shit out of all of them. She takes all their keys, forming them into one true key to rule them all. Yukari tries taking the key, but it fails to work for anyone but Aigis, the true keeper of the key. Yukari feels like a failure and misses her friend Makoto, saying she just wanted to see him again. But Mitsuru reaches out to her, asking if their friendship could fulfill that same role. If Mitsuru could be there for her the same way Yukari was. Mitsuru says there's no need for her to suffer alone and that that's what friends are for. Then they hug. Hugs and chat for love and friendship, baby. That's what it's about. Woo! Anyways, Aigis says she's going back to witness the reason why Makoto died, and then she'll report back what she sees to the gang without using the keys, so they make a better decision with more complete information instead. So they use the power of the Abyss of Time to conjure what their hearts wish for to bring forth the fucking murder door from Full Metal Alchemist so they can go in and see why Makoto died. Inside, they're taken back to the final battle where they see Makoto becoming the Great Seal, sealing away darkness and saving everyone. Metis remarks that he probably doesn't have any regrets as he was able to save everyone and fulfill his promise to them on graduation day. Metis says though that the seal itself is kind of useless because Nyx is neither truly good nor bad. And at that moment, a colossal scary monster guy reaches out attacking Makoto to destroy the seal. Fuka senses that this is no normal shadow. This is Erebus, the manifestation of humanity's malice that cry out for mass destruction. Erebus is the true threat Makoto is holding back, not Nyx, and as long as he prevents humanity's malice from meeting Nyx, the end will be held at bay. The group understand that all of them and every human contributes to this monster at some point in some way, seeking death as a comfort or mercy in times of pain and suffering. The beast turns on the group and they agree that this is a battle not only to save Makoto and the world, but also one they must fight against themselves. The gang absolutely slaughter Erebus, Greek brother of Nyx and son of Chaos. Fuka tells them though that to truly destroy Erebus, the hearts of all humanity must change. The gang commit to changing themselves as a first step and believe that other humans can do it too. Yukari apologizes to Aigis and the gang begin to accept Makoto's death and the reason for it. They take comfort in the fact that he's always going to be there in spirit, protecting them. The gang all return to the present and Aigis begins to wonder what the answer to her life might be if it isn't death. And she settles on friendship being the answer. Aigis is then able to take all her friends with her into the Velvet Room. Igor's a bit surprised as he was not expecting so many guests, but Metis says that Aigis can still keep her promise to Makoto by creating positive social links with others, which will then change human hearts and prevent everyone from collectively wishing for destruction. Aigis then realizes that Metis is just her other half, her other self that she wished away when she said she wanted to return to being an emotionless robot. Aigis accepts Metis and Metis returns to Aigis, who says she truly feels alive now. Igor's like, I'm clocking out, my job's fucking done here, so if everyone could get the fuck out of my elevator so I could go home, that'd be great. Our gamers then return to the real world, seeing that dadgum butterfly as they leave. It is now April 1st and we officially beat Groundhog Day. We're so back, baby. But then Aigis' dadgum RTX 4090 burns out and the gang try to line his tech tips her back to life. But then Aigis wakes up, which should be impossible without the cutting-edge gaming technology of her RTX 4090. But Aigis has awakened to something more powerful than any graphics card. And that's the joy of living, baby. The joy of friendship. I'm powering the ray tracing in my video games with the love and appreciation that I feel in my heart and soul towards my good buddies. I rendered this video with the joy and hope put into my bones from just one outing with my pals. And as the game ends and our heroes begin to go their separate ways, Yukari asks Aigis if she would want to be her roommate for the next school year. And at the very end, we see Aigis standing off on her own, looking forward to a brighter tomorrow. Persona 3 defined the Persona series in countless ways and is a beautiful, tragic story of friendship and guys in beanies dying for no damn reason. Don't put that fucking chump in your party. He will sit in there and leech your XP only to die to a long-haired Pete Davidson. Persona 3 across all its iterations sold 2.5 million copies worldwide, and that's because it was a good game. It was fun and silly, and you can go to the mall with your friends. Unironically, I love Persona 3 so daggum much. Thank you all so much for watching and hanging out with me throughout this insane long-ass series. Hope you guys stick around. And until the next one, thank you all so much for watching. You have all been truly remarkable guests. Love you all. Stay safe. And if anyone tries to lure you into a TV to kill you, simply do not go. Oh yeah. Ba-da-da-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Baby, baby.